the Leinster game was obviously a game of two halves to kind of friends.
Well, no, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, mixed really. I think we were really pleased with the way the boys approached the game. They showed a lot of maturity, a lot of composure, a lot of skill, and so we were pretty pleased with that. And I think we caught Leinster a little bit cold, took our try as well. But then, we couldn't really get another foothold in the game in the second half. We found ourselves on the back foot and unable to clear our lines sufficiently enough. And then when we did manage to, we didn't perhaps hold on to the ball as much as we did in the first half. So it made for a good defensive session, I can tell you, in the second half. And it was quite heroic at times. So, yeah, mixed really. We're definitely keeping our feet on the ground. It's a good start, but we're home, and maybe you should expect to win at home first game. So we're not jumping up and down too much.
Are there any injury issues or any worries coming out?
No major ones. No. There's a couple we have to monitor this week and just perhaps modify their training. A couple of front rowers, Duncan and Mervyn, just a couple of bumps, but no, I think they put in a good shift on the weekend, and it's perhaps a blessing that we've got an 8-day turnaround and that we've given them a couple of days off.
Do you look at the first 5 games you've got this season and think, well, we should be quite a long way clear at the top of the Pro12 by the end of the 5 games?
No. People like me who live and breathe it, and I look ahead and look at games, but that's privately. You sort of set yourself little benchmarks. But we literally do have to take one game at a time, and things do change. Clearly the dynamic of the competition will already change after one game because now we've got a bit of footage on each other. So coaches, players will do their homework now and work out slightly different strategies. We've had a competitive game to test out things that we've all been working on pre-season, and some improvements to make everywhere. So no, you do literally take one game at a time, and likewise we won't read too much into Edinburgh's result on the weekend either. It's still very early days.
You look at that and you'd say anything other than a bonus point win this weekend would be a bit disappointing.
Well, you want to be. There's a fine line between confidence and complacency. That's what we tell the players, and if you look at the game, then Edinburgh had a big say in the game right up to the last moments of the game. So, no, I think the scoreline doesn't reflect that, and we'll just concentrate on ourselves as we did last week, and try and improve the small percentages in our game, and hopefully that'll be enough for the weekend.
We obviously did many pre-season games and feeling your way into it last week. Do you look at this period as pretty much the same 15-22 going out in every match, or do you look at developing, say, a Matthew Morgan more, or some of the people who are on the bench?
Well, it's a balance really. People like Matthew and some of the other younger fellas around are developing by just being in the environment. They're out there training with the experienced boys, and they're getting development that way. Even 10-15 minutes on the weekend, coming on, in that sort of atmosphere and that intensity of the game is good development for them. So, they are developing all the way. You talk about people like Ashley Beck, for example, and Justin Tipperick. They've been around our environment for a number of years now, so it's no real surprise to us, but it is a process that they have to go through, and those young girls are going through that at the moment. Some in some positions were a little bit lighter, will be a little bit more exposed than others at the moment, but others won't, and they'll have to bide their time. And I think there has to be an element of earning the right to wear the Osprey jersey as well. And as I said in my programme notes last week, then those guys had first dibs, if you like, last week and stood up pretty well. So I wouldn't imagine there'd be too many changes, but we do have some depth as well. Of course we've got 2 new signings in Joe Beeman and Aaron Jarvis, who've had small injuries. They had to come in. Tom Isaacs has really impressed in pre-season, and he's bursting really to get on. And we've got some young ones really pushing, like Matthew, Ben, John, Will Price, James King, James Good in behind as well. So yeah, lots to come through.
In terms of particularly maybe scrum half and inside centre, did you have a feeling that there were players who are actually putting down quite a marker to be first choice there for the season? Well,
there were times last year that they were first choice last season. So I think both of those guys are maturing, and they're just realising, what it now finally takes to be consistently selected. So that's good news. Pennies dropping, but they've worked hard to improve their game. So, as I say, we're not getting too carried away. A lot of these guys have been in our system a while, so that's what we want really, is an evolution, you know, a natural selection as it comes through. So we covered it all, Hen.
Just want to jump in then.
Any more? What's that?
So, a bit more Edinburgh, sure. Just what you know, they obviously they lose players as well. But what do you expect from them? So you know, they're really much.
Well, the thing with Edinburgh is that they're very, very dangerous. You know, they have a real ability to score tries. I was surprised they didn't score on Friday, but they have one of the form players in Tim Visser, you know, a real strike player, and they normally have a tenacious back row, good half back, tricky half back. So, you know, they'll be a threat. And then they have a new coach, you know, Michael Bradley, I've got a lot of respect for. So they'll look to bounce back quickly. It's probably not a great time to have them out off the back of a home defeat, really, you know, but that'll just sharpen us up a bit. So, no, they're always dangerous. We treat them with the utmost respect. We do our homework, but you know, we'll be confident after last week. So, yeah, it should be a good game.
There's been a lot of work leading into the new season to sort of get in touch with the community and sort of make everyone feel more like a region. Are there any plans to sort of take that through in the next couple of weeks? Yeah,
there is. You know, the ticket initiatives, and I know the boys and us as coaches, we go out into the community a lot and do a lot of things, which is very, very important. You know, I know coming from the area what that means to the people. You know, it's difficult in terms of the Swans being up there now, and they're getting a lot of the column inches and the exposure perhaps, but that's only fair. So it's up to us really to get in touch in different ways, and I think the kids' village was great. My 3 kids went along on the weekend and really enjoyed it, and it was something different. There was a pretty good atmosphere for people that were in and around the ground. So I think we've just got to continue it. We've got to keep people informed about what we are. We've got to let people know where the boys have come from and what they're doing, and find out a little bit more about our partners and the community out there, because the boys growing up sometimes are in the habitat and they're not aware of what goes on, and they don't realise how lucky they are. So I think the boys are responding to it. I think the public eventually will respond to it. It should be a community-based game. Most of the guys are from the region, and that's how it should be.
Apart from James Buck, pretty much all the players who've gone were brought in from elsewhere. So is there a greater feeling that you're representing the region than before?
Well, it's difficult. For me personally, I've always felt that. So, you know, I find it very hard when anybody in our environment doesn't feel like I feel, but it's easy for me, isn't it? It's where I'm from, and I've been here from the start. I'm one of the originals, so it's very easy for me to get wound up and passionate about it. And maybe it's difficult for somebody coming in to embrace that. But as I said, with the majority of the boys, you know, coming from the area and living and working together, it's just making them aware of what they've got, you know, around them. So you know, the environment, the people around Ospreys are great. You know, our fans, the hardcore fans, they're real good people. They're loyal people. You know, we get our usual backstabbers and armchair critics, as everybody in Wales gets, but that's part of it as well. You know, looking to learn with that, getting on with the job, and just being respectful and understanding that all people really want is for you to try your best and do your best. You know, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're working towards, having true values, ethics, and at least people can't say it's for the want of being showman or or not trying. You know, that's not what we want.
Just briefly, after the events, the coach spoke to Ian Goff, then he mentioned that there wasn't all yee-haws and high fives and that sort of thing after the game. He mentioned that today would be what he called an honesty session. I was just wondering how that went.
We're in it, actually, in the throes of it at the moment. But yeah, and he's right. You know, he's an experienced player. There wasn't a lot of jumping up and down. It was you know, a culmination of a lot of hard work during the pre-season. It's just one game, you know, and it has to kick on into the next game. So the honesty will come now in not soaping ourselves down and saying, well, what a great win against the European champions. The reality kicks in. There's a lot of areas for us to improve. You know, why didn't we run home the advantage in the second half and get some more possession and territory? You know, maybe push on and get the bonus body. We're not going to have a lot of opportunities to get a bonus body against Leinster anyway. So, you know, yeah, the technical realities on a day like today come through. The work in 2 sessions will be about improving your skill-based techniques in and around the set piece, your individual skills, your kicking skills, and so on. So, yeah, it will be a reality check for the younger ones especially, because they will have come in now expecting a lot of high five and praise. And the reality is, we've got to knock it down and prepare now for next week.
And have the younger guys responded well to that on the whole?
I'm sure we will. I'm sure they will. You know, and if it's not us, it'll be the senior players bringing them back down to it. But no, that's the culture we've got now. You know, judging by that session, they're pretty switched on and enjoying it, which is great. We want them to enjoy it as well.
You mentioned Joe Bailyn and Erin Jarvis. How far off are they?
I think Joe will. He didn't take part this morning, but he will take part tomorrow. So, you know, the likelihood is he'll be available for selection for next week, which is good news.
For this week or next week?
This week,
Yeah.
this game coming up, yeah. And with Aaron, he looks a little bit ahead of schedule, so you know, we're looking at maybe 2 weeks for him, which is great news. So,
Jonathan Thomas on the weekend.
yeah.
Did he look like he responded very well coming back in? Just a word of performance.
I thought he was outstanding. You know, particularly in the ball carrying department. You know, on a review of the game, it's I think it's a back row record for us. You know, in terms of the way we monitor the game, which is great. You know, considering some of the boys who played in the back row for us. It's a response, I suppose. I think he's happy to be home. You know, he's good with the youngsters. You know, he leads from the front, and he showed all of that on the weekend. So I'm really pleased with him. Difficult to single anyone out because I think several boys put their hand up there on the weekend. But in terms of Jonathan bouncing back from a disappointment, I thought he was outstanding, and I'm really pleased with him.